Welcome back to This Week in Pharmacy. My name is Todd Urey. I am your host, founder of the Pharmacy Podcast Network, and it's good to be here with you. Another long week. These weeks come faster and faster. I tell you what, it seems like every time I turn around, it's time to TWIRx. And if you're out there, let's TWIRx. Here we go. And we're going to TWIRx and we're going to TWIRx. That's enough of that. No more of that. Quit it. No more TWIRxing. Unless you're listening to the show, then of course you can. Hey, if you're in your car, you're jogging, whatever you're doing, I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that you're listening. A lot going on in our industry. Lots of things happening this week in pharmacy that I want to talk to you about. We kind of want to just jump right out of the gate and give a shout out to Mike Johnston with his group that he created. I don't know how long ago, long ago in a galaxy far, far away. But I have a quick message I'd like to play from Mike and his team. And we are so proud to be supporting the National Pharmacy Technician Association coming to the Pharmacy Podcast Network. Technicians, I don't have to tell you, pharmacists are the right hands, and they are awesome. Let's hear from Mike.
Okay. Todd wants to know, left or right? Which are you? Left TWIRx, right TWIRx?
What?
Todd, remember Todd, he asked us to make a video and for the TWIRx.
So. No, that's not what he asked us to do. We are supposed to be talking about TWIRx this weekend.
I can promise you I'm not about to start dancing. This week in what?
This week in pharmacy, not twerking.
Obviously, we're kidding around here. For those of you that are not familiar with me, my name is Mike Johnston. I'm the founder and CEO of the National Pharmacy Technician Association, and this is
Ashley, the Director of Continuing Education at NPTA.
And Todd did ask us to film a video, although not about this, because we are super, super excited to announce the collaboration of NPTA's podcast, CPhT Connect, with the Pharmacy Podcast Network.
Yep.
Ashley, tell the folks, if they haven't listened to our podcast, what do we kind of do on our show?
So you can expect to hear from pharmacy technicians. We talk about our different career journeys. We talk with different industry leaders. We talk about different unique roles within pharmacy, and we do it all with having a lot of fun.
Yeah, this is not like a boring podcast. We like to have fun. Ashley is actually joining me starting this season as co-host of the show, which is super exciting. And so, yeah, we I've known Todd for many, many, many years. Have so much respect and admiration for everything he's done with the Pharmacy Podcast Network. And so our show is a weekly show, but we're going to be selecting special episodes once a month to have them distributed directly through the Pharmacy Podcast Network.
Gonna be a lot of fun.
All right. Todd, thank you so much for this collaboration. And Ashley and I are going to go and we're going to figure out this left versus right. I think I'm right. I think I'm a right.
I think I'm left.
You're left. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Todd.
That was awesome. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Ashley. We are so proud to have the NPTA coming to the Pharmacy Podcast Network. We know that over the years, we've done a ton of content, most of that directed towards our pharmacists. However, there's more pharmacy technicians than there are pharmacists. So as a publisher that would like to reach an audience and be an organization that caters towards very specific powerhouse people in the pharmacy profession, our pharmacy technicians deserve more of our attention. So we are going to do what we can to boost and to amplify content coming from Mike and his team at the NPTA, and we are excited about that. Something else I'm excited about is the NASP. So the NASP is the National Association of Specialty Pharmacies. They have their annual event happening on October 6th through 9th. We will be there inside their booth as their press team as their press and media support. We are so excited to be working with so many organizations that are committed to advancing specialty pharmacy care, and NASP is at the forefront of that. Sheila Arquette is just a rock star. We cannot wait to work with them again and to just be a support to that organization. A shout out to Chris Antipas and his team at Paragon Health 360. Paragon Health will be supporting our coverage. And then also a shout out to Accessia Health. Accessia Health will also be supporting us at the NASP. They are an organization that is focused on funding, getting prescriptions paid for, those critical prescriptions that if you don't stick with adherence, people go back into the hospital. So Accessia Health is an important part of this ecosystem. And we're so excited to be working with Tiara Green, CEO of Accessia Health, and their team. So a shout out to them. Hey, we have a great bunch of information that I want to get to. We're going to be doing pharmacy news to start out. TWIRx, This Week in Pharmacy, 4 news that's happening. And I want to start with a quick shout out to JB Consulting before we go any further. And that is, the reason is because Shaun Jensen and his team at JB Consulting is very tied into pharmacy care. And they actually, their claim to fame is specialty pharmacy, where they do custom programming for the specialty pharmacy markets. Pharmacy Podcast Network is working with Shaun and his team to design some extra analytical programs and tools for our clients. A shout out to Cardinal Health and RxSafe and the FDA and Novo Nordisk, all of these organizations that have invested in the Pharmacy Podcast Network as their leading podcast. And it's JB Consulting that's going to help us bring things to market. And I'm excited about that. We're going to have a new analytical program that's going to be running, and it's all going to be powered by JB Consulting. So shout out to you. Hey, we're also going to the National Community Pharmacists Association. We're going to be there on October 26th through 29th. We're going to be working with Real Value RX. We're going to be working with Ural Pharma. We're going to be working with one of our special clients, Happier at Home, which happens to be the home care agency that's infusing home care cash-based business to our community pharmacies. And we know that we have to thrive. We have to have our community pharmacies thriving. So I'm so proud to be working with those groups at the NCPA, covering the Super Bowl of community pharmacy. I can't wait. Hey, before I go any further with news, I want to shout out to Dr. Katie Forbes. This amazing pharmacist is a TikTok star. And I'm not much of a TikTok doer. I do like to look at TikTok and watch TikTok. But this powerhouse, Dr. Forbes, is driving so much content through her TikTok. She told me, kind of made me feel bad. She said, hey, I've only been on TikTok for like about a year or so. And already she has hundreds of thousands, millions of views on her content. She's able to make some income through TikTok, which I applaud. I love seeing pharmacists take control of social media and use it to educate the public. She's a fighter. She's out there fighting for pharmacists. She's out there talking about interventions. She's taking opportunities to shout out to the misinformation crews that are out there. I just love what she's doing. Take a look. Look her up if you have a TikTok. Look her up. She's known as your favorite pharmacist, but it's easier to find her if you put in Katie Forbes. And she is a pharmacist, so just do Katie Forbes Pharmacist, and she'll come up. A shout out to you, Katie. Thanks for so much for sharing your vision, and we hope to work with you in the future. All right. I do want to, once again, shout out to Accessia Health, who is a sponsor of today's TWIRx, and they are going to be helping us at the NASP. And like I said, Tiara Green and her team and the assistance programs that they build are so important. If you have patients, if you have people in your community who cannot afford their prescriptions, please reach out to Accessia Health. Go to accessiahealth.com and just ask questions. Ask about travel, medical expenses, insurance premiums, medication copays. They are on a mission to help people be able to afford their prescriptions. And that's why I love working with them. All right, news time. This article is blowing me away. This comes from Endpoints News. I posted this on my LinkedIn, and I had over 3,000 engagements and impressions on this story. And the headline from Lena Khan, the FTC commissioner, it says, Cigna sues the FTC calling for withdrawal of biased, erroneous PBM report. Now, this is hilarious to me. You can tell when an organization, a multi-billion-dollar organization, is doing something wrong. Of course, they're going to try to sue before they have to pay penalties, and even more importantly, before they have to change their business model. Because the way that they're doing business today is crushing families, destroying our independent community pharmacies, destroying infrastructure, healthcare infrastructure throughout the nation. And it's all because of greed. So having the FTC investigate the PBMs and then come out with conclusions that, in fact, what they're doing is shell games and rebate voodoo and just things that are completely not in the boundaries of capitalism, but taking advantage of our taxpayers to just put it in your pocket and just make billions of dollars of profit. They're calling them out. They know it. Cigna wants to sue them because, of course, it's going to wreck their business model. And I'm here for it. I love it. We have to have PBMs, the three big PBMs, come and rebuild their models so that we can keep pharmacists in business, pharmacies in business, and that we can have people afford their medications. And it's all capable. We're all capable of doing it. This is not rocket science. It can be done, but they just don't want to give up their profits. So take a look at Endpoints News and read this article about Cigna suing the FTC. All right, the next news that I want to touch on is Memphis pharmacy student wins appeal over vulgar social media posts in a free speech case. Listen, I'm a libertarian. If you follow me on Facebook or on Twitter, I'm a little bit more pushing about my views as a libertarian. But freedom of speech, that comes top to the list of me for me. Top of the list. We have so many organizations, we have politicians, we have people, we have the cancel culture that's out there. I don't care what this pharmacy student put out on social media. If she was threatening to people, if she was calling for people to die, that's one thing. Of course, you could follow up the authorities with her, but it wasn't. It was some lighthearted information. It was her sharing something on her Cardi B, like in the videos and things that she was referencing about Cardi B's song WAP, WAP. If you know what that stands for, then you know what that stands for. But I'm glad that this took place the way that it did. A shout out to Kimberly Deal for filing a First Amendment lawsuit against her school after she was expelled over social media posts. This was the University of Tennessee Health Sciences Center College of Pharmacy. Shame on them for attacking someone for their First Amendment. She didn't even mention the school in her post. She did not mention the school. It had nothing affiliated with her, but someone, I guarantee it was another student who probably didn't like how pretty she is and how intelligent and how she probably stood out in her school. Probably some jealousy that brought the post to the school's administration, and then they expel her for the post. That is unheard of, and it's against your First Amendment right. And understand how important the First Amendment is today, more than ever, especially with things like in the EU and over in Europe around about fining people for posts and showing up at people's doors. The authorities show up at people's doors about their social media. We cannot let this happen in America. And this affects you as healthcare providers too. And what you say on your own Facebooks, on your own private social media, as long as you're not asking for someone to die, or if you're not screaming for someone to be hurt, you should be able to say absolutely anything that you want, including things that aren't necessarily true, because one person's misinformation may be just a ploy of covering something else up. So I'm very glad to see that the federal appeals court ruled on Tuesday that the Memphis graduates student social media posts were protected speech after this situation with the University of Tennessee Health Science Center temporarily expelled her from school. That's just absolutely silly. All right, next, I want to give a shout out, some good news from the West Virginia School of Pharmacy. Alumni has been appointed as the director of West Virginia's Poison Center. This is freaking cool. I love seeing pharmacists take positions of leadership. And it says in our article, this comes from Buckhannon, MyBuckhannon.com, the publication, and it reads that West Virginia University School of Pharmacy graduate is now in charge of one of the state's most critical resources. Dr. Rachel Krunchak, PharmD, she graduated in 2021, was appointed as the West Virginia Poison Control Center's director earlier this summer. It goes on. She's a native of Sissonville, West Virginia, and she's going to be replacing Dr. Elizabeth Sharman, who retired in June. Congratulations to you, Rachel. Congratulations to the WVU School of Pharmacy. This is excellent news. We love hearing this stuff. Pharmacists taking positions of leadership. Excellent. All right. Last news that I want to bring to your attention is coming from Pharmacy Times. It says enhancing patient outcomes, the role of integrated health system specialty pharmacies. Obviously, this is a piece of news I wanted to bring to your attention, and that is because of the rise of specialty pharmacists and the need for specialty pharmacists, especially when patients don't know the complexity of therapy and how important it is to stay adherent on their medications. The role of the integrated health system specialty pharmacy is growing. So if you're interested in dialing into a very specific disease state, start reaching out to your hospital systems and seeing if they're going to expand their specialty services. But this article posed a couple questions. Does the patient have concerns about the costs that might prevent them from taking the medication properly? Listen, pricing, which goes back to Accessia Health, by the way, pricing and staying compliant because of not being able to afford your drugs, especially here in the United States, this should never be happening. And unfortunately, it is. And that kind of goes back to the whole PBM thing. The second question was, does the patient understand why the medication is needed? Is the patient committed to the treatment regime? And that's where pharmacists come in. The physician kicks off the treatment, gives the ball to the pharmacist. The pharmacists are driving this, and how much of a significant role it is to explain to people. And remember, you're the most trusted healthcare professional out there, pharmacists. So they're trusting your guidance, and you have to give them explicit guidance, and you have to give them a pathway of staying on their treatment. The next question, does the patient have concerns about safety or complications associating with taking the medication? So side effects, there's going to be a bunch of questions. Are they able to take specific over-the-counter medications while they're on this? This is all where the pharmacist education comes in. Number one role of our pharmacists is keeping our people safe. And this is playing into how important our pharmacists are in health systems, specialty pharmacies. Look this up. It's on Pharmacy Times. It just came out this week. And we are excited to announce that we are going to continue to resource news. If you have a blog, if you have a news piece that you would like us to feature on This Week in Pharmacy, we would love to do so. We'd love to continue to work with pharmacists on This Week in Pharmacy. and bringing more content to our HCPs and other things that you're doing. Champion stories, things that you've done in the trenches that have proven to be effective. And with that, I'd like to move on to today's interview. It's brought to you by Retail My Meds. They're changing the game for retail pharmacies. This is a very important interview, and I thank you for listening. I can't wait to talk to you next week on This Week in Pharmacy. This Week in Pharmacy, welcoming Erica Collins back to the show. If you probably have heard of her, we've been talking about her through social media, the founder of Retail My Meds, and this is pretty important, tools that can be used to decrease overall expenses, specific around brand medications. This is a really interesting model. You may have heard her on the Cardinal RBC 2024 coverage, the Counter Talk podcast that Cardinal Health puts out. Erica was part of our content there with Dr. Adam Robinson and Nicole McClure. Erica, it's just great to have you back, and someone who's an entrepreneur that's really put together a program like Retail My Meds. It means a lot, especially this time and age in independent pharmacy.
Yes, thank you for having me. It's definitely an important program right now.
Absolutely. So if our listeners are hearing this for the first time, give us an overview. What is Retail My Meds?
Retail My Meds is a prescription coordination program designed to help independent pharmacy owners become better business owners by finding a source for prescriptions that they can no longer afford to fill in their pharmacies. And so what we do is we have established a program and a system and a software surrounding how to implement a service so that you don't have to choose between taking care of your patients or taking care of the bottom line of your business.
So if I'm a pharmacy owner, I'm listening in, give me an example of how this rolls out from beginning to actually becoming an active program within the pharmacy.
Yeah. So if, most pharmacy owners are running reports in their pharmacies weekly, monthly, and identifying areas of opportunity where they may be losing money on certain prescriptions or drug classes, for example. So what we do is we instruct the pharmacy owner to take a hard look at those losses and maybe identify some prescriptions or drug classes that they really don't need to stock in their pharmacies at this point in time. There are exceptions to the rule, but by and large, what do we really not need to purchase at this time because we can't purchase it cheaply enough or we cannot become reimbursed for it appropriately? And then with the program, we teach whoever's utilizing the software in the pharmacy, we teach them how to have a conversation with the patient in a professional manner that says, you know what, for right now, we can't supply this prescription for you locally, but we have a solution. And so we're not sending our patients out the door to the competition or leaving them to fend for themselves. That's not what I signed up for when I became a community pharmacy owner. I will take care of my patients, And so what we do is we basically set the patient up with their insurance company's preferred mail order pharmacy to supply that medication to the patient. And, we have a conversation with the patient, we get their consent. What's important about this program is that you're in the arrangement with your patient, not with anyone else. And honestly, that's where one of our biggest strengths lie in what we do is the relationships that we have with our patients that we've developed through the years. And so when the patient agrees to this program, they're giving you permission to work as their advocate for the purposes of medication access and sometimes affordability, because sometimes they can save a little bit of money utilizing this program. So it becomes a win-win for the pharmacy. At that point, we instruct the stores on how to set these accounts up with the appropriate mail order pharmacy and then coordinate that prescription from start to finish. We speak this language very well. That's what we do in pharmacy. We always take care of our patients. We understand how to communicate with these other entities to make this happen. And then what happens as a result of that is the patient still gets the medication that they need when they need it. And the pharmacies are not having to sacrifice their profitability or, tie up all of their cash to be able to supply these medications, because the patient needs them. We can actually win in both ways.
When did you come up with this idea, and how long was it before you were able to kind of test it, finding out that it was working for you, and then passing it on to another pharmacy owner?
It was probably about 3 years ago that I had a patient walk into the pharmacy, a great friend patient who had been, coming to our pharmacy for 15 years. And he brought me a prescription for a specialty med, and it was a $20,000 medication. And every time I filled it, I lost $200 on this prescription. And I couldn't source it any cheaper. And this was the only therapy that worked for this patient. And I really felt torn because I wanted to take care of the patient, but I could not change what was out of my control. And so I started thinking about the fact that specialty medications often had to go to specialty pharmacy. And that's sort of the way the idea came about. And I asked the patient, could I coordinate this for you? Could I order this for you from your insurance company? And I'll even have it shipped here to my pharmacy for you to pick up. Because at that point I understood that my state law allowed that. But he was perfectly okay with it and was actually thankful that I provided a solution to this problem. And I didn't have to go into a ton of detail about the whys, but I just said, this is not something that I will be able to continue to do for a couple of different reasons. And he was fine with that. So what happened was, I started looking at other medications that we were not profitable on. And, we're always having these conversations, can we purchase this drug cheaper? Can we, do something different with this contract? Is there anything that we can do? Is there a therapeutic substitution that may work for this patient? But at the end of the day, when you've exhausted all of those options, this is what we have to do. And so I started just going down the list of prescriptions that I had no options for. And from that, we developed a process in my pharmacy. So I've been an independent pharmacy owner for 16 years. And, I knew that there was opportunity here because I could start to see the benefits in cash flow and the fact that I'm not taking those losses. And, we're so often set in our minds in terms of, business ownership and leadership, especially in pharmacy. It's like, how do we increase revenue? What else can we sell? What programs can we implement? But sometimes if you take a step back and you think about it maybe a little bit differently, how do we eliminate the losses that would take us, so much more time and effort to make up in terms of improved revenue to offset those losses? So, I don't know if that resonates with a lot of people, but it certainly did with me. It's a lot easier to eliminate a loss than it is to increase new revenue sometimes. So that was how it all started. And then we developed a software that can be utilized with this program, and then a turnkey sort of set of operations for pharmacies to implement at their pharmacies.
Are you seeing any of your users come up with a way of extracting information from maybe their pharmacy system, getting it into your system, and being able to kind of accelerate population of patient information?
We are working on some integrations right now with a number of pharmacy systems. And so that is definitely, the idea is, you take that information from your pharmacy software system, you evaluate those reports, and then from there you can identify those opportunities and really extrapolate savings pretty quickly. And it becomes pretty exciting to see what your opportunities actually are as a result of that.
That is cool. So what's the advice for implementation right now? Do you do a consult with the pharmacy owner to kind of explain some things? Do you have a team member that does that? Like, take us through how we get started with you.
Sure. Well, for anyone who would just like more information, they can set up a call with me or someone on my team. Typically, I'm the one handling a lot of those introductory calls because I'm a pharmacy owner and pharmacist, and I live and breathe pharmacy still. And from there, if you like what you hear and you're interested in signing up or giving it a try, we send you all of our onboarding information online. Training is all online, self-paced. And then once you're ready to start, I do encourage setting up an onboarding call with our team just so we can talk through best practices, particular situations that you may encounter in your store that you need a little guidance, kind of working through. And so that's pretty much how the implementation goes. It's a really a fast process. If someone would like to get on board pretty quickly, literally you could be recognizing these opportunities and sending them out within a matter of a couple of days. And so what that could actually translate into is a pretty good amount of, your return on your investment within the first, 30 to 45 days.
So we're going to take a break, but when we come back, Erica, you have kind of a surprise guest for us. So share with us who's coming aboard.
Yeah. So thanks for that. We are pleased to bring on Wyatt Walker, who is a pharmacy owner down in Louisiana. And he joined the program just about a year ago, and he has had wonderful success with the program. And we're really excited to share what he's been able to do in his pharmacy.
That's great. All right. Don't move. Don't close your podcast app. Keep listening. We have part 2 coming up from Retail My Meds, retailmymeds.com with Erica Collins coming up next. Stay tuned. Stay tuned in. We'll be right back.
This is Debbie Marcello, host of the Happier at Home PRN podcast. Did you ever consider all of the potential cash revenue that you're giving away? What if you were to learn about services and products that you could keep in-house as opposed to referring your customers out? On my podcast, Happier at Home PRN, learn from the experts who have expanded their services to increase revenue, earn out-of-pocket payments, all while increasing the quality of care in their community. Listen to our past podcasts and join us for future episodes where we focus on growing your pharmacy into a thriving business. And we're not talking about keeping your head above water. We're talking about wealth and the survival of your pharmacy.
Hey, and on This Week in Pharmacy, have a special interview. What I'm excited about is bringing programs to this network through This Week in Pharmacy, through different podcasts that impact community health, that impact our community pharmacies, independent community pharmacies. The reason is, what kind of pressure you're under as a pharmacist, let alone pharmacy technician in all settings. But the pharmacy owner has something else to think about, and that is staying viable for their community, staying profitable enough to keep open, and always introducing the next phase of client engaging programs, treatment engaging programs to make us some money and get away from always relying on just the dispensing fee. And I'm glad you're here This Week in Pharmacy. Welcome to the show. I want to introduce Erica Collins. Dr. Erica Collins is the founder of Retail My Meds. Erica, I'm so excited to have you here on This Week in Pharmacy.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Very welcome. I met you and was very impressed with the program. You helped us out at the Retail Business Conference, Cardinals RBC Conference. There's going to be interviews coming from that segment in that 3-part series. Can't wait for you to hear that. And I think you were talking with Dr. Adam Robinson. You were talking with Nicole McClure, kind of getting into what's the impact of the state of the nation of our pharmacy industry. And we've already kind of talked about that originally and kind of setting the stage of what is Retail My Meds. The reason why I'm excited to have you back today is because of our special guest in follow-up to our first interview, and that is pharmacy owner Wyatt Walker down in Louisiana, getting ready for a hurricane, Wyatt. So tell us what's going on down in Louisiana.
Yeah, we're getting ready for Hurricane Francine, which is due to hit us or make landfall in about 24 hours. So we kind of burning the candles at both ends here in the pharmacy. So, but I think it'll be fine. With could be worse. So we'll make it work.
We're excited to have you, Erica. We set the stage last interview with you. You really kind of unpacked what is Retail My Meds. Now, what I'm excited about is we have Wyatt here now with us to really kind of give a pharmacy owner's perspective of implementation before the program, why the program, and now how Retail My Meds is impacting his community pharmacy.
Yes, that's right. We launched our program just over a year ago, and Wyatt has been on with us for several months. And, we're excited to hear a little bit about his perspective and what it has done for his pharmacy as well.
So Wyatt, kind of expand on that as a pharmacy owner, and how'd you hear about it? And then what made you interested in the actual program?
Yeah, so I heard about this program through a podcast. I think it was the Sykes and Company podcast that Erica had was on. And I actually, it's just, the timing was perfect because we were trying to figure out ways to get rid of these brand prescriptions and offload these the losers. And we were trying to dream up different ways. And one was to send them to our competitors or send them to the chain stores. And then we also considered the possibility of trying to get with some specialty pharmacies to see if they would like us to transfer the scripts to them. And about that time, I heard this podcast, so I immediately contacted Erica, and I've been on it ever since.
Oh, that's cool. So I want to roll it out from your perspective, Wyatt. Can you take us through how you implemented the program, how you're getting messaging out, how it actually is scaling for you? Yeah,
so I took a really robust approach at the beginning, because when I heard about the program, it was around September. We were, as pharmacists, we were kind of under pressure to figure out a way to get rid of these DIR fees for the hangover, anticipating the hangover first quarter 24. So, it was, once I found out about it, I knew that in order to try to get rid of some of those DIR fees, we had to really get after it. So we really made a push to enroll as many people as we could. As soon as I would get a person that had a prescription that needed to be put on it, we were signing them up. And it was a lot of work at the beginning, because we just signed up a lot of people all at one time. I know it probably caught Erica's attention how many people we were signing up all of a sudden, but I knew that it was my best way to try to combat the DIR fee hangover that was coming. So we were signing them up left and right. By probably November and December, I think I was up to maybe 100 patients, which I thought was a good bit. I think I'm up to 150 now. So that gives you an idea what kind of push we made to try to get them signed up early.
Erica, expand on that from your perspective, because you've helped multiple pharmacy owners implement Retail My Meds, and you've probably seen different outcomes of how they've managed and how they're marketing, but kind of give our perspective of kind of a mix of those stories.
Sure. So, I think it really comes down to really what your goals are as a business owner and what your needs are. And, like Wyatt, echoed the opinion of a lot of pharmacy owners toward the end of last year, preparing for the DIR take back, and then the apocalypse, in the early 2024 this year. But, there are different approaches to the program. So some pharmacy owners choose to just coordinate prescriptions out of the pharmacy that they can't purchase cheaply enough and are therefore not making the profit that they need to be able to sustain their businesses, while other pharmacies, maybe take a more aggressive approach like Wyatt did, and a lot of pharmacy owners do that actually, so that they can free up that cash flow and decrease those retroactive fees. Now that's not so much an issue, but really there's still several losses that are occurring, in our industry. And what it really comes down to, Todd, is just the fact that, we have to be smart business owners. And first and foremost, you have to decide what kind of business you want, what kind of pharmacy business you want to have, and back into the numbers that you need to be able to sustain that business, not only for yourself, for your own livelihood, for your employees, but also to continue to be viable for your communities. Because many of us live in rural areas where, we are the only pharmacy in the area, or, even if you're in a larger suburban area, you still offer services that are unparalleled to anyone else. And so that should not be undervalued or underappreciated. So that's kind of what we're seeing. We see a little bit of all different kinds of effort into the program. And honestly, it really is empowering, because you can actually, build the kind of business that you want as a result of implementation of this program.
Erica, take us through. There's some people that are listening, they're in their cars, they're commuting. maybe jogging or something, they can't see the screen. If you want to go to YouTube, this will be published on YouTube. We'll also have it on a blog, part of This Week in Pharmacy. But if you are listening, I want to share some data with you. Erica, take us through some of the data you shared with me, which was a slide that we can have some links to as well. But use this as an example. We're labeling this store 1, and of course, we're focused on the months of July and August.
Sure. So what we can see here utilizing this slide is that this pharmacy fills around, 4,800 prescriptions a month. Typically, most pharmacies are filling about 10% brand. And of those 10% brand, you're seeing probably 6% of those or so that are the biggest losers or the biggest headaches of your pharmacy in terms of reimbursement, as well as acquisition costs and cash flow tie up in the pharmacy. So when you actually decrease the number of brands that you're filling in your pharmacy as it relates to the total prescription volume, we see a huge increase in gross margin. And what this slide represents is basically just the consistency in that theory that, if you decrease your brands, your margins will improve. And one thing we did not state on this slide is, really what the savings are in terms of, purchases. But you can understand that there's a huge benefit in decreasing, what would have been close to 500 brand prescriptions down to 296 and then 253, what that would mean for savings in terms of purchases as well. So definitely some real value here in the store in terms of, what this means for the sustainability of the business itself.
Wyatt, it would only be you and the rest of our pharmacy owner community that would understand that if you do less brand prescriptions, you'd actually make some more money. And that it just blows my mind to think of we're at the state of the nation.
I have a hard time telling and explaining that to people. They don't really understand what that means. They don't understand why I would give away prescriptions, but I'm very transparent with my patients, and I tell them exactly what it is, and they're extremely receptive to it. I love the fact that, I know a lot of stores are sending their patients to chains. I love the fact that I don't have to do that. I love the fact that I don't risk losing all their prescriptions. And look, even some of the generics aren't real big money makers, but if you lose that patient, you lose vaccinations, you lose other clinical opportunities. Vaccinations now, there's money to be made on vaccinations, I think, and pharmacies have been a big part. I have a lot of people that come here looking for COVID shots as we speak, waiting for me to get them in, which I got in yesterday. So you don't want to lose that opportunity as well. So that's another big aspect of it.
Wyatt, take us through the actual workflow of how Retail My Meds fits into your existing workflow in your PMS system and stuff.
Yeah, before I say that, I want to say that I have a lot of people that ask me about the Retail My Meds program, and I try my best to, give them a good explanation of how it works. One thing I will say to new listeners or people that are considering it is you don't have to do what I did at the beginning, which was completely just, try to grow as many people as you can in a short period of time. That was a lot of work for me, but I knew I had to do it, and I was willing to do that. Now it's slowed down and it's paced itself tremendously now that I have everybody entered, and now it's just a matter of basically refills. The only difference is I'm contacting them to refill them a week or two ahead and getting it through mail and having it sent here. But the workflow for me, I personally still do it only because I'm trying to incorporate some new things into my pharmacy, but I'm about to have to turn it over to one of my techs who does my sync program as well. So, basically there's a couple days a week that I really have to get in there and make sure that everything is being delivered, that it came in. Once it comes in, it's really a pretty simple process. I personally make a Retail My Meds drug item, if you will, and we just process prescriptions so that I can track them. They can be signed out, and then I can tell when, you know, somebody may be due for the next refill. So that works well for us. And then other than that, I mean, it's just the enrollment probably is the hardest part. You know, once you set somebody up, it's pretty easy after that. And then her platform does a very good job. You know, you are able to tell when something's due. So basically what I do is go back into I use Pioneer. I go look at when it was picked up last. I use that as, you know, my next pickup date. And then I set, you know, the order date 10 days prior to that. You know, that's the way I do it. So it's a pretty simple process, and her platform really makes it a lot easier than just trying to track it yourself.
Erica, are you encouraging pharmacy owners to differentiate workflow based on what settings they have? If they're have a little of assisted living off to the side, like how are you kind of coaching pharmacy owners to implement the system?
Well, every pharmacy is different, and I think that you have to take those considerations into account whenever you are setting up a new store. And so we're always available to help troubleshoot the questions. Most pharmacy owners already know, you know, how they want to implement the service that they have. Obviously, there are a few additional considerations with like a long-term care pharmacy as opposed to a traditional community setting, because a lot of those pharmacies package medications, and there are some very, very distinct rules and laws regarding packaging medications that are sent from another pharmacy. However, there are lots of medications and therefore lots of opportunities for medications to be coordinated through mail order that are inhalers, you know, injectables, things that are not in need of being packaged along with the patient's like convenience dosing medications. So one of the main things that we try to help with on the onboarding side is, you know, looking at the store's individual situation. We're all independent, which is a beautiful thing, but, you know, we all do things a little bit differently. Yep. And so it's important to understand what those differences are and to help find the best solution for that particular store, giving their individual set of circumstances.
That's good. I want to always, I think of this from the pharmacy software world that's how I entered pharmacy. And every time we would add some kind of feature, if it was external or internal, if we were going out and getting data from an Excel spreadsheet or from something, because this is back in the day before things were as automated as they are today. So implementing something else in the pharmacy, and I'm listening to what Wyatt's saying with giving the baton off to the pharmacy technician. The way that Wyatt does it is the way I implement things in my own business with my own team. I always want to try things first, bang my head around, you know, the processes, create the process, and then teach the process, and now implement that through a pharmacy tech who has strength in something like Sync anyway. And this is very dovetailing to that. So Wyatt, I like that. I like the fact that you're using Sync, pulling information through Pioneer RX pharmacy system, and now you're able to move forward with the Retail My Meds .com system. Wyatt, another question just from your point of view. What do you see? Do you see the scalability moving at the same pace that you were originally at, or how do you see using events, back to school, or if you're doing something with immunization programs or something to leverage what Retail My Meds brings in savings to a pharmacy?
Not real sure exactly how to answer that, but not so much. I mean, the Retail My Meds for me is kind of its own thing, I guess, if that makes sense. You know, I utilize it strictly to, well, I'll say this. I've been able to utilize it on the wholesaler side. That's been one of the biggest issues or things for me, is that I've been able to, you know, renegotiate or renegotiate my deal with my wholesaler based on the fact that, you know, my brand percentage and what I'm feeling on the brand side is much less. Not sure if I'm answering your question exactly as you asked it, but that has been a big deal for me. And I think I've been able to decrease my generic purchasing by about $8,000 or $9,000 a month. And my wholesaler, my sales rep, didn't quite understand what I wanted at first. She was like, why do you want to renegotiate the deal? We put it on paper and it's going to be, a little bit less advantageous for you to switch. But I'm like, they were basing my numbers on pre-retail my med days, which I kept explaining, I need real data. I need current data because my business has completely changed in the last, at that time, it was 3 or 4 months. So that's one big thing that it's done for me. And that's why my gross profit percentage has been able to go up quite a bit. We went up from 18 to 20% to 25% before we did a wholesaler deal. And then that changed to around the 30% range, 29% range. So I'm not sure if that exactly answered your question, but that's been something that's been very good for us, is on the purchasing side.
That's awesome. No, that's exactly what I wanted to hear. I wanted to hear the value that this is bringing to you as a pharmacy owner, for sure.
And I think if I could just add on to what Wyatt said, the benefit of this program is to free up cash for your pharmacy. I mean, some of us, have been in issues where, we struggle to pay the wholesaler debt. We struggle to make the payroll. I mean, there are a lot of pharmacies out there, quite frankly, that are struggling to keep their doors open. And, when you can realize cash in your bank account within 6 weeks of implementation of this program, and let's say that you get that debt caught up or you don't have that particular situation, now you have money in the bank to implement services that may be more beneficial for your community, something that you've been wanting to implement. And we keep hearing this idea of, let's do point of care testing. Let's implement these new services, but services take time and money and investment on all of those resources. And if you don't have it, it's very difficult to implement. And so I think if there's one thing out there that a pharmacy really wants to do for their community, I think that you have that ability to do that once you get this program in place, because it allows you to be a smarter business owner.
I love it. Hey, Wyatt, I really appreciate you being on with us and giving us your point of view as a pharmacy owner. It's important to us to talk through these podcasts, especially to our community pharmacists out there and owners, to do whatever we can to help them. So I really appreciate your input.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think it's important that we all network together and try to figure out ways. I mean, I call my friends that are pharmacists that are truly my competitors also, but we discuss things all the time. And, if there's a way I think we can help each other, I'm all about, providing that information. So it's been a pleasure to be able to share that with you guys.
Thank you, Erica. This is great having you back on This Week in Pharmacy, giving our pharmacy owners this kind of guidance. If you are interested in talking with Erica, we have her information up on the screen, but just for people listening, go to retailmymeds.com. It's really easy to remember, retailmymeds.com. And Erica, you have to promise that this won't be the last time you're on This Week in Pharmacy. We'd like an update on this program. Are you headed out to NCPA in Columbus?
Yes, we will be there. We will be exhibiting as well. So we look forward to seeing everyone.
We'll have to make sure we get you on the post show, integrate you into the programming for the NCPA coverage. And if you have other pharmacy owners that are going to be attending that are also using Retail My Meds, we'd love to hear from them.
Todd, can I add a little something?
Absolutely.
So, Erica and I have talked numerous times since I've been on the program. And one thing about Erica, she's always looking to move forward with the Retail My Meds platform and then utilize it for other opportunities, not just for what it is. We've talked numerous times about different ideas that I think, Erica's looking into and trying to progress. So, kudos to her that, she's not just satisfied with what it's doing, but she's always looking to improve it. So thank you, Erica, for that.
Thank you. Thank you, Wyatt.
Great. Well, I appreciate the both of you being on This Week in Pharmacy and being here. We're going to share this podcast. If you're listening and you have a pharmacy owner that's a friend, please send them this episode. It's a real good way of getting this information out and helping other pharmacy owners. Wyatt, I'm going to say a prayer for you guys down there in Louisiana. Hopefully that hurricane just comes through as a rain shower for you.
There you go. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Erica.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Talk to you soon.
Hey everyone, Dr. Tamara Ruggles here, and I just wanted to invite all of you to the PharmD talk show hosted by myself and Dr. Katrina Azier. We are going to talk about pharmacogenomics, owning a consulting company, things we've learned, things we wish we would have known, the struggles, the successes, everything in between. We just want to be real with everyone and just have a lot of fun while we're doing it, so please join us.